creating a platform which really brings together the professionals that we are, which is indeed an important occasion in my view, because this is how the movement begins. I don't have to introduce the panel. I think you would have read the bios, you read the titles. I think we've got a very interesting panel today. The panel has essentially FMCG majors, large FMCG players, FMCG players who have been there for, who have a long history of being present here, and more importantly, FMCG players who have operations in more than 100 countries if you see the way they are spread out. Along with the FMCG players, we also have a representative, Ms. Sahithi, from the medical fraternity. There is a range of companies which are making medical devices in the Andhra Pradesh medical tech zone. And we have got Mrs. Swati from there. We've got Mr. Peter. We've got Sanjeev, Wangoo, Ajay and Pradeep Pandey. And truly wonderful set of people to essentially talk about, in my view, the important issues of sustainability, circularity, and very often these things are, seen as synonyms, but there are fundamental differences. So it'll be good to get from the perspective of both the industries, both the group of section of industries, how the professionals are seeing this. So maybe I can ask some of you to just talk about the regulatory and regulatory aspect, the way it is evolving. What are the right things which are happening? What are the nuances in terms of execution? And if you can relate it to the principles of circularity, it'll be great, because that is what our theme is. And I think we increasingly will need to get more and more familiar with such words, because gone are the days when our jobs as industries would be over when we make our first point of sale. Increasingly, we are expected, the environment expects us, the governments expect us, and most importantly, our consumers expect us to make sure that everything and anything which we sell is disposed of in a very responsible manner, which means the end of life treatment of all the packaging, everything which goes with it, we must play a role in that. So maybe I can start with, we've got Godrej here, a large company. We've got lubricants here in Veedol, a large company as well. We've got Emami. So in no particular order, maybe I can ask you to start off and talk about the regulatory aspect a little bit. Or maybe you can.
Mr. Pradeep Banerjee. Somebody I think mentioned, in fact questioned very well, in the last panel discussion about education. So I'll talk about a bit on, what is the regulatory framework. I think the PWM rules, as I see it, it first came into kind of notification in 2011. And when it came into in a notification, the requirement was that the collection, the segregation, everything will be done by the municipal bodies or the panchayats, gram panchayats. And the brand owners on a period of, I think, 3 years were supposed to phase out the laminates or the multi-layer plastic, it was so called. Then again in 2016, there has been more clarity to that particular rule through the amendment, wherein the multi-layer plastics was redefined, giving more clarity to plastics and multi-layer plastics. And I think there has been further notifications and clarifications and definitions from the ministry, from CPCB on various aspects of this. I think over a period of time in the last 10 years, 13 years, this whole thing has evolved. The law has evolved or the rule has evolved a lot. I think in 2022 is the time when the real change, or so to say, where the brand owners are really impacted, has come into, come into effect. Wherein even though the EPR was notified before, the real, putting exact responsibilities has come in 2022. So there were basically 3 areas. One is that on recycling. So whatever is that collected, you're supposed to recycle. The brand owner is supposed to recycle. The second is on recyclate. That means whatever is kind of recycled, you are supposed to use in your products. And third is reuse, wherein a certain pack sizes at a certain percentage, the brand owner is supposed to collect it back and then use it again. So now, if you look at it, the problem is that when you look at all these three, the brand owners currently are facing, one is that the brand owner is facing the biggest problem is on the education of the consumer awareness. Why I say that? Because the feedstock that is coming today, while we talk about technology, cleaning and all the other stuff, there is so much of contamination that happens. There is so much of work that is to be done for segregation. And if you see, almost 75% of the package or the plastic that is used in packaging is in flexible packaging. And currently you can't see any kind of, a technology that is developing fast in recycling the multi-layer flexible packaging. When it comes to using the recyclate, the problem is that the landscape is yet to develop. It is in a very recent, nascent stage. It has to come into...
it has so many aspects. I mean, circularity is, we know cradle to grave and then cradle to cradle approach. All that is well known. And we heard also in the earlier panel talking about recycled content, PCR. And the same thing is what Peter was referring to now. So one aspect which I feel which keeps getting missed and which is also very important and also from the regulatory perspective is the reuse. So I thought, let me talk a little bit about the reuse aspect of circularity and how regulations are there and how does it impact brand owners as well as consumers. So reuse by definition, which is plastic waste management rule, says that, as what Peter said, it needs to be brand owners need to, or manufacturers need to collect the packaging, clean it, and then repack it or refill it, and then send it back to the, to the market, to the consumers. So that's where the, challenge is. And there are various categories largely, I would say largely because on the pack size, which the law says that, anything more than 5 liters and less than 5 liters. And both of these categories have their own unique challenges. So if you're talking of less than 5 liter, small containers, the challenge here is to collect these containers back, and then refill them. And this gets even more complicated or interesting, I would say, when it's a food pack. And when it is going back for a food application, then that's where the challenge is in terms of hygiene, in terms of consumer safety, which is extremely important. All of us, at all points of times are consumers. So safety is very important. And there are certain laws which, earlier panel was referring to in terms of which are getting framed or which will, which have also, come in force. So, and when we talk of the larger, containers, which is more than 5 liters, and Peter was just now saying that, have companies done it? So I'll share my experience, that we did something in terms of reuse, and we thought, the easiest, let us focus on what is easiest to do as what we usually do. So we thought the big containers easy to get back. So let us attempt to get all big containers which are 20 liters or 50 liters and those which we use. We have a large consumption of those kind of packs. And we ran a campaign for a few months. We ran a campaign and we said that, okay, nothing comes free of cost. So that is incentivized. So we were willing to pay the consumers the same cost of the pack or empty pack, which they would otherwise get if they sell. And to our surprise, I mean, we were hardly able to get any containers. The reason is because people are using them. So reuse is in our grain, in the Indian psyche. People reuse containers, isn't it? So all these containers are getting used for water, for grains, for transportation, any number of items which we even don't, imagine. So that's where the challenge is. So the law says, or, from next year, there is a stipulation or a mandate that, certain percentage of packs based on these categories will have to be recollected, reused. But we don't get back. I mean, we tried and we are still trying. So, and this challenge will be faced by all the brand owners. So the challenge, or what I would say, is that when these kind of policies are getting framed, they have to consider the, the psyche of the consumer behavior, consumer perspective. And then these laws need to be framed, And when we have on the other side, we have EPR, we have, laws which are related to recycled content use. When all of these are there, and when all of these are, to be done in parallel or simultaneously, then that's where the challenge is. So my take would be that, all policymakers who are there, and we also should contribute and then, try to bring in this entire aspect of consumer behavior and frame laws so that it is easier for brand owners and manufacturers to implement them, since we all of us want to do.
When it comes to basically the sustainability, it defines more on optimization of the resources with the minimum impact on the environment. Whereas if I talk about circularity, it focuses more on designing the product or packaging, which can be used for the higher life cycle. When it comes to the consumer awareness, I think it has improved significantly through the multiple interventions which the government has done, through the regulations and all what Peter has just explained on that one, and also basically the social media. So there is a lot of awareness in the market when it comes to the consumer. They are expecting a eco-friendly packaging, biodegradable packaging and all. The brands which are consistently or transparently talking about their sustainability efforts or the packaging innovation on these platforms are often get the better trust, better loyalty towards their brand on this. However, the sustainability, it is not cheap. We all know that one. It comes at a price. When it definitely, like as a brand owner, it is going to deplete the margins of this one. But this is an important parameter which we all know that one, and important aspects, and that's where all the brand owners are focusing upon that one. So if I talk about like Emami as other responsible brands, we are focusing on all the 4 R's of the circularity when it comes to the reduce or the recycle or reuse or recover. When I talk about basically the reduce is something which, you know, like we have traveled a good journey of optimizing the weight of the rigid containers, leveraging all the technologies and all. But I think it is a high time to push the envelope further and do a further optimization without compromising on the functionality of the packaging and all. And this is something as a brand owner, we are partnering with our technical partners to do some innovations on those fronts and see like how we can get the better, more optimized weight optimization or the reduction and demonstrating the reduced part of that. When it comes to basically like reusing or the recycling, there is a government guideline which is requires the PCR, basically the uses from 2025-26. So for rigids, like there is a mandate of using 30% PCR into this. Definitely, like as a brand owner, we all are basically working towards on this. Challenges are there. I think in the previous sessions we talked about on this, like if I talk about rigid specifically on the polyolefins group, getting a right material to perform with respect to the functionality and all is not easy actually. And that is where we are today. And I think the industry is holding the hand to really come out of that one, how we can basically improve on this front.
Doing something out of the box, but we are doing something which others are doing, which means on the bottle and in the bottle. In the bottle, there is a liquid, so we're trying to see how we can use re-refined base oils to make our products, and which is what industry is doing. On the bottle means where are we using, where can we use PCR? We are trying to do that. We are scaling up from 30% to 50%, and the direction is to go higher and higher. Now the challenges which we face is, one, is the consumer aware? Yes, he is aware. Is he willing to pay extra? Maybe not. He wants the same bottle, same product at the same price, but he wants a recycled. So that is where the challenge with most of the companies, how do we manage the cost of recycle? And we all know recycle doesn't come at the cost of a virgin. Actually, recycled is expensive than some of the virgin material. So that's where the whole kind of question comes up for each one of us, is how we can make it cost efficient, deliver to the customer something which is recycled, and be in the circularity. And what we are doing as an organization is working with partners who can help us in reducing as well as recycling, and somebody who's been not only in as a consumer but also on the upstream, looking at how they collect from the market, how they produce the resin and all that stuff. Having said that, what I also feel is one of the biggest challenge which we will face, maybe not today, maybe 1 year, when everybody is doing PCR and the bottles are PCR, how do you do a recycle of a PCR? That's something question we need to ask. Do we have the technology to recycle the PCR if everybody is going 50%, 100%? I see A lot of companies, especially in my area of industry, have targeted 100% PCR. So the bottles are in the market, huge volume. When you recollect back, can the PCR be the same PCR? That's a question we need to ask. So yeah, so those challenges will be there. New technologies will be required. And I think innovations is something which we are looking forward to from the leaders here sitting across or at the global level. How we can make recircularity as a part of a business and not something out of the box. So that is what I'm kind of keen to look at.
Okay, thank you. And clearly the innovations in the PCR supply chain, I think the earlier panel did talk about it a little bit, but we have a long way to understand the economics of this from a user perspective. Maybe at this stage, sorry ma'am, if I can come to you, Ms. Sahithi, you represent the industry role in saving lives, which you do day in and day out. So from your perspective, what are the two things maybe. What are the regulatory frameworks you need to operate? Number two, how do you see this evolving with time as the debate on sustainability stroke, circularity stroke, reuse goes on? Because from a medical devices perspective, it's very personal for almost all of us in the room. It'd be good to get your perspective as to what the manufacturers are doing on this.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. MDZ is like technology for center.
Can you take it a little closer to
where research center is and facilitates the all medical devices like vitro diagnostics testings, cases testings, and pre-filled syringes. Even though larger devices also there, but in that case we have enclosures, plastic enclosures, but it will be like cost effective and it is on not in daily basis. Coming to small devices like diagnostics, dialysis consumables, PET kits, these materials, dispensers, these materials especially we use, we preferring that PET, PVC, which is sustainable and biocompatibility, which we process that in sterilization, gamma sterilization. We are more chosen for this material because it is biocompatible and withstand with the gamma sterilization and ETO process. We have a Cobalta like a sterilization process at our MDZ facility also. So that according to regulatory bodies, we adopt these processes during that COVID time. We are now we have suggestions that like advanced materials like PEEK. These materials are using for implants like dentals, orthopedics. If distributors can help in that research also, it will be because it is sustainable and also during that mechanical properties that implant advanced technologies will support by MTZ. This is my concern. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have got, we are running out of time, but maybe worthwhile because many of your operations, I'll not come to all of you, but maybe one or two perhaps. You have operations in more than 100 countries. So if I were to take the GCPL kind of experience, you're operating in so many countries. Can we learn anything from what's happening in slightly evolved markets? You have large markets, you operate in the US, you operate in